I just love that these types of community events and education things, like your tribe attracts your vibe attracts your tribe, as you always say, and it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And so it becomes surprising to you and I when we are around people that don't think that way. And it's almost like you're looking under a rock, like, well, how does this work? Like, what's going on here? Like, let's dig into this. Today on the podcast, we had Morgan Molitor on, and as you can imagine, we covered a lot of ground if you've heard her before. She's a third-time guest, and we talk a lot about her Build Her retreats, which were down in Costa Rica that just happened about 30 days ago. We talk a lot about Contractor Coalition coming up here in June as well as November, and really just the benefits of having a community that supports each other. Tons of great nuggets. Without further ado, here's Morgan Molitor. Welcome to Curious Bureau Podcast. I'm Mark Williams, your host. Today we have a third-time attendee. We got Morgan Molitor in studio. Hi, Morgan.
Woohoo! Thanks for having me.
Woo-hoo.
Hi.
So for those that have not met Morgan, your world is about to get a little brighter. She's amazing. She and her business partner and husband and life partner, Jamie, own 5 companies. We've got Construction to Style. We've got Contractor Coalition, Resilience to Reform, Neon Lion, and Build Her Retreats.
That's right.
Although he can't really be part of Build Her Retreats.
He's actually not a part of a few of them.
Okay,
you know
Jamie, we love you.
He's married to me.
He's married, so he's there. If you want to know more about Morgan's business, recommend listening to episode 7, 2 years ago now. That's wild. That's 2.5 years ago. Since episode 7, where we really dive into all of those, although Build Her wasn't created at that time.
Yeah.
And then episode 48 was 1.5 years ago. We spoke all about mental health. That was a really popular episode. People really resonated with that. And so anyway, those would be some good ones. Today, we're going to talk about mindset in our market right now. I think we'll talk about Build Her Retreat, which just happened a month ago for you. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about Contractor Coalition coming up here in June in Omaha, down at Builder Trend headquarters, and as well as in Chicago in first week of November. And then we'll just see. Knowing you and I, we probably won't make it through any of those topics. We'll probably just pick 3 other ones.
I love it.
When we have 2 people with ADHD and they combined, you get a lot of action going on here. A lot of information flying.
Oh, I love it. No need to speed it up to 1.25 on this.
No, I had a lady one time who called me or sent me a message, and she said, "Thank you for speaking so fast. I don't have to speed up your episodes," which I took as the ultimate compliment.
That is a good compliment.
I'm not sure why, but
so we don't like to waste other people's time.
Yeah.
We like to
talk fast.
Move it along, get to the point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with Build Her. That was 30 days ago? You guys were down in Costa Rica? Has it been that long already?
It feels like a year ago, but yeah, I think so.
So your first one was 1 year ago down in Costa Rica, and the origin story of Build Her was basically a female-led retreat to celebrate women entrepreneurs, kind of break away from the day and grind.
Yeah.
Walk us through the original idea, why you started it, and how has it changed from year 1 to year 2?
Okay. And also that's crazy that the last time I was on this podcast that it hadn't
even happened yet.
I'm like, oh my goodness gracious. So we started it, January of last year. And then we just had it March of this year. And we're already planning the next 3 years in advance.
3 years in advance?
Yeah, 3 years.
Why?
Just because a lot of the places that we're going, they're international and we have to book them that far in advance. And as you know, planning events, I always say it's like you're putting on a wedding, and these places that you want to book are booked out 2 years in advance. So we're choosing places for Build Her that aren't necessarily these event centers, if you will. We're looking at homes, and it has to be able to accommodate a number of people, have the settings that we want for the dinners, the interactions, the education, and also be all within our price range. I got started actually because Meg and Allie, who are my 2 partners in that, Allie Integral Builders out of Chicago, and Meg, they've both been on your podcast out of Idaho, Meg and Co-Homes.
And all former Contractor Coalition alumni.
That's where it came from.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I was like, they both came there. That's where I met Meg, is from her showing up there. That's how I met you, from showing up there. That's who I say I've met my favorite people, is from showing up at Contractor Coalition. And so, they both had come to the summit. They got to know one another through another event. And then the 3 of us started having a conversation about, like, how can we have some sort of this event, but in a different way for females that have to level up and show up the same way as men do. And a lot of that, it's not about the education necessarily. It's about how we have to show up in a room, how we have to show up in conversations, how we have to set ourselves apart. And there's a lot of mental that goes into that. And so we form this retreat just once a year, international, to be able to do that, like retreat, get recentered, get refocused, and then also educate. There's a portion of that. It's a lot different than Contractor Coalition, where that's like heavily focused on education. Obviously, we have a lot of fun too, but this side is for just leveling up in new
So
and
I'm
different
really
ways.
curious about that. I mean, I have a daughter. I have so many women in my life that I respect and model a lot of my behavior. My mom being like a lot of people,
Mhm.
that what you learn from your childhood and things that you model in your behavior as parents, things like that. But what are some of the things that you could tell the audience or share with me? What is it, what is there a double standard, not only in building, but just in life in general for women compared to men entrepreneur? And what are some of those things that were discussed that you sort of have to combat and say,
Yeah.
as women, these are things that we have to overcome? I'd love to dive a little deeper on some of those topics. And
Yeah. Well, Meg and Allie actually both had great presentations just a month ago. And so what we do too is I lead a day, Meg leads a day, Allie leads a day.
oh, I
And we
like that.
have, yeah, and we just have the morning session. And then the rest of the day, we do something that's conquering a fear or something like that. And so Meg and Allie's days actually, Meg focused a lot on also being a mom and like how we have to show up for our kids, how we have to show up for our partner, how we have to, and she just talked a lot about empathy and separating the two, yet that they are one and that they do overlap, and just how to be able to get through, a lot of those hard days. And then Allie talked a lot about client expectations and how she just went through a really hard year that I had no idea. And I talked to her on a regular basis. And she was like, I keep saying it even in my head every day. And it's like, we all know this from Dory, just keep swimming, keep swimming. And like, I hear Allie's voice being like, keep swimming, keep swimming. But in
Instagram reels are
oh
Allie,
my
you are a
God,
hilarious person.
so
Her
funny.
personality is like so deadpan. And it's
Oh
just
my
like
gosh.
the things that she can say.
Oh yeah.
I'm actually going to have her come on to talk. We're going to do a 20-minute episode just on change orders
Oh my
because she's
gosh.
so
Yes.
clear and
So
clear
good.
as kind, right?
Yes. Yep.
And she's just so good at it. And she did an episode with building code recently, and I listened to it, and I was like, I sent her a text. I'm like, Allie, would you come on? Because I
Yes.
feel like as many people that can hear your
Yeah.
take on how this works is just, she's just very clear. She has such a
Yes.
clear identity of who she is, what she wants to do, and what the outcome
Yeah.
is. And anyway, I
Yeah.
really appreciate her. Plus, she's got
Oh
kind
my
of like this
gosh.
really funny sense of humor that's very dry.
Yeah, like, when she started talking, I was like, I don't know whether to laugh or cry, and I was, like, almost on the floor because I'm like, "Did you really just say that?" But she can say it in such, like, I'm like, "You need to be a comedian."
Oh, she'd be
And
a killer comedian.
for our
Actually,
industry
there we go. We
specifically.
should have an open mic. Honestly,
Oh my
we should have an
gosh.
open mic night
That is great.
at Contractor
Oh,
Coalition.
man.
Idea alert. Knew this wouldn't stay on the rails. Think about this. This would be
I better
amazing. An
write that
open
down.
mic night, and people and everyone would share 2 stories of like a fail or something. Because
Wow.
who can't relate to a fail?
Right.
I actually want to do a podcast series. I
Oh my
haven't been able to
gosh.
figure out, or like Instagram series where
Yeah.
basically the concept is you have to fail to succeed.
Mhm.
And we'd pick all these really well-known builders across the country,
Yeah.
and they would just do a little video camera of like, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
I failed.
Yeah.
And then, but everyone knows like they're successful.
Right.
And then it'd be kind of like, but this is what made me, this is what I learned. This is
Yes.
why
Yeah.
I'm successful. It's because I feel like podcasts in general, and I think one of the reasons why our last episode did so well is we talked about a lot of the difficult things that
Mhm.
we go through as human beings.
Right.
And we just happen to be builders. And yes, we talk about building tips and tricks and
Yeah.
things like that. But I feel like it can be a lonely island.
Yes.
And I think what draws people together, the community
For
of
sure.
like, hey, we have similar issues.
Yeah, and being vulnerable. And I mean, that's what Allie was talking about
Yeah.
too, is just like failing forward. And how
I like
do
that.
you use all of these things to move into that next season, that next chapter in a really positive way, and using that as fuel? And so, yeah, and a lot of the conversation too, it's like for women in this industry, things that you would say versus that I would say, like I would be probably considered, a bitch, whereas
Right.
you wouldn't be. You would
Like,
be like,
do you
"Oh,
have an
that was a
example? Did you
normal."
guys actually do an example of like something like that I would say and that you would say and we would be perceived differently?
I mean, not one that I can like
Or more like the
think
spirit of it. Like if I
specific
come
right.
off
Yeah.
strong and authoritative and like this is how it is,
Yep.
I'm considered as a male confident and that's how it is. But if a woman is to do that, the double standard is like, oh man, she's a B.
Yeah.
Is that
yes. And it all comes down to financials, right? Saying this is a change order. This needs to be paid. and talking through a lot of that kind of stuff. And really, it's like, no, this is very transparent. But men, for whatever reason, can just say that. And people are like, oh, here's a check. Whereas I don't know, it's just different. So we really have to show up the way we look, in our confidence, the way we say things, approach
Did that
things.
resonate with a lot of the other
Oh,
builder?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single one of us. And so again, it's like we're all different levels. Some are commercial, some are residential, some are builders, some are remodelers. And every person is just like,
So
yep.
if that's not the stereotype, because it's a truth, I guess a lot of truths come from stereotypes, but if that's the rule book that our clients are playing by, what was discussed as ways to combat that?
It's
Or what was
just,
the advice given?
well, the advice more so too is like, it's okay. Like, we're also CEOs of our company. We're also leading our company. And it is okay if we
So
are
don't
correct.
apologize.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Don't be, yeah, I always say unapologetically, like, don't remove the sorries always. And so I've been really trying to focus on that too, is always don't have sorries in anything. Or her emails could be one sentence, but that's most of Jamie's emails. Like, his emails hardly even start with like, hey, I hope you're doing well. Like, mine always start that way. And I mean, I want that personality to shine through too. But when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, a male, even client, things like that. You're just like, oh, yep, okay, better do it. And so it's more so just like, that is okay. And we need to also remove the emotion from ourselves and not get so beat up about it or feel insecure about it or feel less and
I feel like that
just
message
own it.
ties into what Meg must have shared about
Yes.
mom. And
Yes.
correct me if
Yep.
I'm wrong, because I want to give you're the mom, not me, but like I can relate to it. I think from what I hear my wife say, who's a professional.
Mm.
So May is 9, Simon and Tate are 6 and 5. And I feel Melissa has had a lot of mom guilt while working.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like most moms that are professionals that work go through this. And it's
Yeah.
like, certainly not guilt for me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel
Yeah.
like women sort of judge themselves.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
society doesn't
No,
contribute to that,
it's all in our head
but
half the time too.
because like as a husband, I'm like, work, don't work, help at home, not help at home, like
Yes.
whatever it takes. But like me, of course, I do what every husband does. We try to solve the problem.
Yeah.
My empathy ability is quite poor.
Yeah.
And
We're like, we just want to vent. We don't need you to solve the problem. We just want you to like just listen for a second.
oh, it's so funny. So, but I mean, is that kind of what Meg was talking about then?
Yes. And Meg actually went through, she like had us do this live forum where we found out like what our anxiety level was at. And then we went through and she shared like how to effectively like figure out your calendar and like how to plan your family things, your plan time with your spouse and your partner.
Or so
Make sure
this
the
is
things that are a
needed for
priority.
everybody. So give us some tips and tricks on that. What were some of the actionable items?
Well, one of the things that keeps going through my mind too is it's like you ask someone what their priorities are, look at their calendar. And so that's one thing where I'm like, I do love to work though. That's also a little bit of my problem. Like, that is my hobby in a way. Cause I mean, we have different things within our business. And so like writing is a hobby of mine, but writing is also a part of my job. And so it's just been interesting because now I've just been looking at my calendar. Well, one, Jamie and I never have date nights ever, ever, ever. And so I actually said to my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, I'm like, let's rotate once a month. You watch our kids, we go on a date. We'll watch your kids, you go on a date.
Oh,
And
I
I'm like,
love
this
that.
is mandatory. Like, we have
Yeah.
to do this. And again, Jamie and I, we don't need, like, it isn't a conflict, I think. And so that's why we've never made it a priority, because neither of us like need this time per se, because we're together often and we're homebodies. We're home together and we're a family unit a lot. So we've never needed that. But just thinking about that, I'm like, no, I need to make that a priority. This should be on my calendar if I say he is one of my priorities. And so just something as simple as that, just starting out once a month now we're doing. And even Ethan on our team reminded me, like, a date night can just be being at home, but sharing a show together and not being on your phone, or doing a game night together or something. And I was just like, okay, this doesn't have to be
I
that
mean,
crazy.
it could be a walk. It could be,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
Right. Like, I was always thinking date night has to be like, oh, we go out to dinner and then we just talk about work anyway, stare at the kids, or wish we were somewhere else. So I was like, no, it can be simple things.
The benefit of a date night is, or just time away, is it gives you a chance to reflect. Because a lot of times you're tired and
Yeah.
you don't want to go, or
Right.
it's you're exhausted. But then as soon as you're there, it's part of it is I guess I'll use the analogy of running. No, not
Yeah.
every day that you exercise feels great,
Yeah.
but the days that you run when you don't want to run actually lead to your overall fitness. I think,
Oh, that's
I,
great.
I think like date nights, not everyone is going to be a pinnacle 10.
Yeah.
You went and saw a play, or you went and saw a good movie, or you had an
Yeah.
amazing dinner, but it's the habit of taking the time.
Yes.
I think that's the magic.
Yep.
And it could be, to your point, it could be anything. I'm a bit of a kind of an idealistic romantic, so I like these ideas, and sometimes the idea is too big, and so I appreciate it could be simple, like let's go on a walk. It doesn't have to be a grand. I tend to gravitate towards the grand gestures, where I think maybe just the time is probably
exactly
the thing that's needed.
Well, and the same thing with our kids. Like I felt like, oh, we do so much with our kids, but then I started to look at my calendar and think about a lot of these things we're doing with our kids are running them to hockey practice, running them, just bringing them places, going to church. It's like we're not spending time with them. So that was another thing that I reevaluated on our calendar is like, how are we spending intentional time with our kids? So like last weekend, Jamie just took Beckham to the movie. And so just starting to map those things out for the whole year, not just, so that's one thing Meg said, don't just look at the week, look at, and also we talked about this one time, but Eat the Frog. I started listening to that too. And I'm just like, yes, don't just think of it the week of or the day of. Lay out our whole year, specifically the quarters too, and be looking at those quarters to be like, do we have 4 date nights in here? Do we have a play date at least with each of our kids solo written down on the calendar, and that we're going to make sure it's on there and nothing is going to be compromised with work because of it, because it's time just passes and then
I think that one-on-one time is really special.
Yeah.
There was a local architect, A&H, and they sent out an email yesterday that,
oh my gosh.
and they are doing a really clever actually idea. You have to pay for it, but you register and you go to their studio and they have a professional flower arranger, and you get to arrange a flower set and a vase for Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take my daughter. So it'll be a one-on-one thing, but it's a win-win. It's business development with an architect that I'd like to work with.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's something you can do with your daughter. I actually asked my wife first, and I was like, hey, do you want to do this together for Mother's Day? And she's like, no. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to take May. She's like, that's great.
That. Yeah, that
and
is
so,
great.
Yeah, anyway, I think certain families do better with laissez-faire.
Yes.
I'm a little bit more like you. I'm fine with laissez-faire too, but I actually like to plan it out.
Right. Or at least so it's there and it doesn't, you don't just forget it. Well, and another one too is, so C2S Fun Days is what we call them, and we have one a quarter. And again, all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, last year we missed one. And so I now planned, I think it was last week we just did it. I had a lady come over to my house. I invited the team over, their spouses. We did yoga. We did Reiki.
What's Reiki?
Oh, let's talk about that later. It's energy work.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they send great energy into you, and they can do a little reading in there too.
Okay.
So yeah, our whole team was like, oh my gosh, Morgan is taking us to the dark side. I'm like, that's right, but through Jesus as well. And so, yeah, and we did DIY pizzas and just hung out at home. So again, not this elaborate thing. And then I already planned out, I was like, okay, there's a concert coming up in the park in Plymouth. You're like, let's all go. We're going to do golf.
Do they all want to come?
They do.
Yep.
And that's something I guess I haven't shared too much with you, but we started these YouTube series over at Construction to Style. And I just had Kayla and Topher and Jamie and I chatting about, because that's one thing I've realized through talking with a lot of colleagues is our team shows up and they want to show up. So I just asked them, we just went a little bit on a deeper level. What is it that we do that makes you guys want to show up?
Oh, I like this.
And so
what'd they say?
I mean, there's a lot of things we do, but we're so family oriented with our team. And a lot of times we're way too like, there's moments, right, that I've vented to you about, but like frustrations or things that I'm like, but it's like, but at the end of the day, they feel the way they feel and they show up the way they show up because we're so generous with time and their priorities.
I mean, they feel a part of it because they are a part of it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and Jamie say time and time again, like if we didn't have our team, like we'd be okay, right? We'd just be doing a lot less. And so it's like we are creating jobs for them to have jobs. We're not creating jobs for them to make us richer so they can live the lifestyle they want to live. And so we try to firmly promote that and do that.
This episode is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. I've used Pella for 21 years as the exclusive window company on every one of my builds. When people ask me who I trust for windows and doors, it's Pella every time. Their craftsmanship, their innovation, the top-tier service make them a no-brainer for any custom home builder or designer who demand the best. Whether you're designing something bold or building something with timeless elegance, Pella has you covered. They're also the only window company that has a lifetime warranty on all of their windows. I've gotten to know all their people at Pella Corporate, as well as locally here at Pella Northland. I'm proud to call them our partners and our friends. Visit Pella.com to learn more and connect with your local reps today. Also, for more information, you can listen to episode 1, where I interview their founders, as well as episode 109, where we talk about the innovation at Pella. I've been asking this question lately, so I'll ask you, what was the address of the home that you grew up in?
Oh my gosh, 1104 7th Avenue Southeast, Roseau, Minnesota.
1535 Bavarian Shows Drive,
56751.
Chaska.
Oh,
So
wow.
my point is most people, if they lived in a home for a period of time,
Yeah.
they remember their address.
Oh my God. I
And
still
what
remember my phone number. 218-463-22880.
218. I have some friends with 218 numbers.
I love it.
My point in bringing it up is I think one of the messages that I've been sort of excited to talk about lately is, as home builders across the United States, don't lose sight of the fact that we're doing something really special and unique.
Yeah.
In the sense that you're creating a home for people to live in. I don't care what strata, if you're building a $20 million house or a $20 tent, whatever.
Right.
Can't build a birdhouse, maybe. Yeah, well, that's not, I mean, that's a house for a bird. I mean, that honestly, that works. Just that it's a very special thing that we get to be a part of.
Man.
And yes, we're talking about business and how to make more money and how to, but what do you do with that money? If you had all your dreams come true, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for others, but it's like, you want to work on really interesting projects that are creative with really great team. You want to do really well so you can not work as hard to spend more time with the people that you love and family. And honestly, like you, I mean, the days fly by.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been bored in 21 years.
Oh my gosh.
Ever.
No.
There's always more to do.
Every single day I pick up, I'm like, how is it already pick up?
Right. But do you remember back like in high school, or like you'd like look at the clock on the wall and you're like, oh, it's 10:30.
Yes, all my past jobs.
All my past jobs.
Yeah. I'm like, oh man, I just got here.
Speaking of past jobs, I'm shout out to Julie Hall. I worked 1 year in copier sales out of college. And Julie she was in sales as well. I'm going to have coffee with her in a couple of weeks.
Oh.
I haven't seen her in 20 years.
Oh my gosh.
And so and she's still there. So I'm just really excited to see
fun.
And she was at the time, I recall she was a big Ironman athlete before I got into tries and some other stuff. And so I'm really excited to see if she's kept up with it. But anyway, I just past worlds collide and what are people passionate about?
Yes.
I don't know how I went there, but going back to Build Her, this time out was brought to you by the Curious Builder. The Build Her. So what were people saying? Like, last time that you did it, you had like the zip line, you had a few things that sort of challenged your fears. What were some of the things that you did this year?
Yeah. So this year, we added a day because that was feedback. People just felt like there wasn't enough time.
So it was 4 days or 3?
So it was 3 days before. So it was 4, but plus travel days this time. And so, so Sunday to Friday. So 2 travel days. And again, people were like, oh my gosh, you need to add a day. And I was like,
day. So it's becoming like a week.
People that hadn't been before.
Oh, I see.
And I was like, isn't that funny? But like, they want more and more. And something Brad Levitt told me that I always think is like, you want people leaving wanting more. So that's also a really
don't go
good
too
thing.
long. That's like, I think that's not only Brad Levitt thing. I think that's like any parent who has gone on vacation thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes. But so and I would say it was definitely a different vibe or a different crew, which was interesting. I had someone recently ask me, like, have you ever had anyone that you didn't jive with or conflict or whatever that has come to any of your conferences or summits? And I'm like, no, never, because I think your vibe attracts your tribe. And so we bring the right people there. But it definitely was different. But I wasn't sure if it was just because the industry right now or what, but I felt more heavy and more deep. And so a lot of people were like, we were talking about, and so it made me go and do research on like suicide rates in our industry. Like that.
What is it?
Well, we are one of the top 3 industries that, and in some articles there was a little bit of,
yes, sure.
But some, they were saying contractors are number 1.
Oof.
I know. And I was
Did
like,
they say why?
Oh my gosh.
Stress? Yeah.
And just, I think being treated not like people that we talk about all the time and humans, and like the constant trying to live up to everyone's expectations. And it's like, that is really taxing on you. And actually, Allie started her presentation with an example of someone that she knows that just got chewed alive by, and he must talk about it publicly, but by a client. And he left there on his way to go like nail a tree to take his own life. And I was just like, oh
But
my
he didn't?
gosh. He turned the corner and someone had gotten in a car accident right there. So it like made him stop. He went home, he told his
Whoa.
wife, and his wife just said, okay, we're done. Like,
Right.
we're done. We're walking. Like, this is not worth that was about to happen. And she went into a little bit more detail, but I was like, we're all crying and just like, so I think her even opening up with such a personal story like that, and then her sharing her last year struggles, and then yeah, it was just wild. Like people starting to share their stories, and like just this year, and I don't want to speak for people there, but it was like, whoa. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, what? And then the next person I was like, what? Like around
It
dinner,
just kept
right? Yeah.
accelerating.
Yeah, and then we had someone else there that was like, "I wouldn't be here. I lost my daughter, and she's the only reason why I would show up at a place like this." And I was like, "Oh, what? Like life, right?" And yeah, it was very yeah, just very deep and impactful. And so I forgot your original question, but oh, what was different?
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
what was different was like those conversations, and we had a lot more, I don't want to say downtime, but like going to the beach together and just like these conversations carrying. And
I think it goes back a little bit to the comment we were talking about date night and like grand gestures, and some of it's just time together.
yes,
And I
yeah,
think the thing that Build Her does really well, from what I can hear, is like,
yeah,
yes, you have some classes in the morning where you're getting topics, and then those, I assume those topics then are talked about for the
yeah,
rest of the day. And I
yes,
think it's the individual connections. I mean, the intimacy of the group, the smaller group, I
hmm,
think helps with that.
right,
I've mentioned this before. We have the Curious Builder Boot Camp coming up in just
yep,
a few weeks
yeah,
in Zion National Park, and it's
hmm,
a little bit of a twist in the sense that like it's probably more fitness focused. Wellness is a big part of my
yep,
life, and so it's like, but I wanted, people are getting off the airplane, they have to check in their phones. There's no
yeah,
phones,
yeah,
no alcohol, no digital devices
yeah,
actually. So we decided that you can't have like GPS watches
yeah,
for any of that stuff. Kind of going caveman.
yeah,
And so we'll have a videographer there to
hmm,
video it all for, for content and all that kind of stuff. But I want people there to be kind of free from all that.
yep,
And I think the wellness side of it is just not being distracted, so people can connect on a
yes,
deep way. And the group is largely men. It didn't have to be that way, but I
right,
feel like men aren't as good as opening up, I feel like, as
yeah,
women probably.
yep,
And I don't know if that's because, as a generality, certainly some men
right,
are very good at empathy, but I think when you get them out of their environment, like going for a 4-hour hike, I mean,
yes,
you're walking in the woods, you're walking in the
yeah,
mountains or whatever, like when you can exercise and be like, so, I mean, it
oh
becomes
my
more, it's a little bit
gosh,
like a car ride.
yeah,
If you're driving across the United
yeah,
States, some of your best conversations, if you think back, are like these long, monotonous, boring car rides,
yes,
but like they flew by because you filled the time with interesting
right,
conversations.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well, and honestly, I'm like, because sometimes I don't love to say like, even like female retreat and we're treated different, blah, blah, blah. Cause I'm like, you know what? We have different skill set that men also don't have. Right. And you guys have things that we don't like. So, and talking about that, I'm like, I am always like, and I say this to Jamie, like, I'm always checking in with him because I'm always so worried about his mental health because
he's so quiet. I
he's
mean, he's
so
very
quiet and
reserved.
he doesn't share too much. But there's been moments where I'm like, calling him and I'm like, you need to answer every time I call you because I'm like nervous. Like, and he's always like, Morgan. And I'm like, no, like, I will not take this lightly. And so, like,
Have you ever had the
it's
emergency
really hard for
conversation as a
men.
husband and wife?
No, what does
Like
that mean?
what constitute as an emergency?
Oh, no,
No?
no.
Maybe it's just me, but I think a lot of men can relate to this. I remember when I was first married, I don't remember if I assumed it was my wife, but I mean, just in general, I think I patterned this after my dad as well. Like,
Yeah.
to me, there's only two emergencies. One is involving my kids that I need to be there. So that's an emergency.
Yeah.
Two is you're bleeding out of your jugular, and
Yeah.
my hand is the only hand on the planet that can stop it.
Yeah.
Anything else is not an emergency.
Yeah.
It might be urgent. It
Yep.
might need my attention, but it's not an emergency.
Right.
But if it is an emergency, like I will go 150 miles an hour in the
Yeah.
ditch and I will get there to do whatever. But you know
Yes.
what? It better be an emergency,
Yeah.
because if it's not, it's going to be one.
Yeah.
And like, so the other day, whatever, I was getting hammer dialed, over and over. And as I picked up and I was like, is this an emergency? And they're like, and they want, and I was like,
Yeah.
it either is or it isn't,
Yeah.
because there's no shades of gray here.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Okay.
And but I've used that to explain that to clients.
I was going to
And
say, do you use this
I
with your
I
clients?
do,
Okay.
because yes, is water leaking in your roof an issue?
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it an emergency? No.
Yeah.
It's urgent. I'm fine with you calling me. Call
Yep.
our team. We'll get it fixed. It's not
Yeah.
an emergency.
Yeah.
Your house burning down, that's an emergency.
Yeah.
But frankly, you should call 911 because I can't stop the house
Yeah.
from burning down.
Right.
So like, I think part of it is educating, and sometimes you can be kind of funny about it, right?
Right.
And I think it's setting up the expectations of, we're building a prototype. Like this has never been done, whether it's a remodel or a new home,
Yeah.
you've got architects, designers, hundreds of trades partners that you're working with, unique clients, unique kids, locations, weather. The variables are endless.
Right.
And so the expectations really of what we're doing need to be set on the front side, that the reason we have a good reputation, the reason we do this is we're passionate about people. We want to get it right. It's not perfect.
Right.
Anyone that expects perfect, you're in for a really rude awakening.
Right.
Because it's a prototype.
Right.
My favorite analogy, and I've said it many times in the podcast, it's been a while, but it's like Ford F-150 rolls off, 100,000 trucks a year. They have callbacks.
Yeah.
They're in a factory. They're getting every single part machined, and they still have things that don't work. And no knock on it, but that's considered, quote, normal. How is doing a one of a kind, never been built before? Again, it's a prototype.
Yeah.
And yet the expectations are it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
That's not realistic.
Yeah.
And it comes up to you and I as the as the first ones in the door, as we're building a team to sort of, it's the betterment of the team. I often bring up these analogies with my clients to start seeing if they connect. Like a red flag for me is if they start reacting very negatively to those lines of thinking.
Yeah.
Because that's telling me like they don't agree.
Yeah.
If they don't agree, this could be a major problem.
Yeah. And you bring up those conversations like as you're vetting
just
them, or
literally
like
as just as I'm talking,
or okay,
all the time. I mean, whenever I'm able to sort of
like
just
every time I talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, just when
yeah.
Is this emergency?
Yeah.
No, Mark, I just want to know what the pink color is. It emergency? No, not quite like that. No, I mean, a lot of it's delivery, right? You can say it in a funny way, like I'm trying to, right? Like you can make it, because humor is probably my go-to default, right? If I can make them laugh, it's usually a good sign that we can figure something out.
Yeah.
And
that's what I say constantly. Perception is reality. If I remembered anything from college, that was probably the only thing that my professor told me. And I'm like, every day, I'm like, to my team, like, we had a recent client that, her view, like she would tell us every single day, like, well, for how much I paid. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah, I don't
for how much you pay, and I'm like, perception's reality, you guys, perception's reality. I'm like, this is a lot of money to her. It might not be for this
that
project,
narrative
but
is
I'm
one of my
like,
least favorites.
I know it's really hard. And it's like when you get told that every single day.
How about when it's inaccurate?
It was inaccurate.
I know they always think so. We had a client that kept saying a number that was, multiple millions, but they also included the land and landscaping and stuff that had nothing to do with us, land mainly. And they would keep saying like, hey, this build was this, and we expect, I'm like, half that number isn't even me. So they keep saying it like it's a package. And like, but they were really just winding themselves up.
Right.
They were just getting themselves all worked up. And you go like, here we go again. They're working themselves up.
Yep.
And like, we understand that, this is why we're here. This is why we're taking the call. This is why we're trying to solve the problem.
Right.
And it's just like, and honestly, I think it's a human issue. It's not a building issue.
No.
Because, my wife is in medical and healthcare, and like the same thing. And that, I would argue, that's way more important, right? You're talking about your health.
Yeah.
But the same thing persists.
Yeah.
That, they perseverate on this thing. And a lot of times it is. And when people are out of control, they try to exert control on you. So if I'm out of control, I try to control you as a way to sort of bring order to the chaos.
Right.
I'm not a psychologist, but there's probably a term for this.
Yeah.
We should bring a psychologist on. Actually, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing.
We should we'll call him Freud, and he will sit over in this seat. He'd be like, you guys both need therapy. And we'd both say, no problem. Let's start now.
Yeah. Fit that in our schedule.
I thought that's what the podcast was.
Yes, it definitely is. That's what one another are for sure.
Oh man. So anyway, it's interesting. You mentioned on the Build Her avenue. So you had to plan out 3 years. So, I mean, can you share what some of the is it locations are like? Because a lot of people don't understand how. I mean, people want to go. One of the frustrations that I have is event planning.
Yeah.
It is not for the faint of heart.
No.
It is it is a contract with failure in the sense that like you do all this work with all this idea, at least with a marriage, like
Yes.
you and your spouse are getting married.
Right.
Whether someone comes to this wedding or not,
Yeah.
that's on them.
Right.
You might pay for it, but you're still getting married. You're still
Yeah.
getting something out of this.
Yeah.
If you and I do all the research and figure out where to go and line up food and then you have this whole big thing, we don't know if it's going to be successful till like 2 weeks before.
Yeah, for sure.
We're
Sometimes
ordering,
even 2 weeks after.
yeah.
Once you reconcile.
Yeah. And it's really, everyone wants a great experience.
Yeah.
Everyone wants that hospitality and
Yeah.
all the stuff, but it's hard because if there's not commitment early enough on,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard for us as planners to develop to deliver something that
For sure.
meets our expectations because
Yep.
we do want something to be really special.
Yep.
How do you navigate that?
I mean, it's the constant battle, I would say. So with Build Her, when we signed up for our first one, there was an opening in this house that we got. It was actually an architect. So this we host in Costa Rica. It was an architect in California. It would accommodate all the people we wanted to fit, the food, everything. So it was perfect location, all of it. And then they had a cancellation and an opening. So we were able to get in within a year. And so normally he was like, we get booked out at least 2 years in advance. So we are like, we'll book out the next 3 years. It was terrifying because that means booking out, you have to put down payments down. And so that's what we did. And we did last year, this year, and then we'll do next year. And then right now we're actually in conversations with other people as well because we're trying to decide like,
Where to go?
do we keep having it there just because it's tried and true? We know it. We know we're not going to fail. However, then with repeat people, I'm sure don't want to keep going back to the same
I mean,
place.
they probably would with people, but it's always it's also for you and I, innovating and getting creative is part of what makes us
right
interested to do things different, right?
For sure. And we're a part of the home space too. So it's like we do want to explore different properties, spaces, locations. And so we're solid there till next year. And so now we're looking at one other place in Tulum, debating whether, we fly out there to look at the venue before we have it there. We actually have a call with them next week, but same thing is going to happen. Like we're going to need to book 2 or 3 times. So,
Right.
and then we already have an agreement for this other place. So right now things are, we're figuring that out. So it's like, that's kind of what we have to do is like
The hard part, there's
same
the
time.
financial aspect of it, of event planning, right?
Mhm.
I mean, sure, it sounds great to book all this stuff, but you're front loading all of this with investment. And I think
Right.
I can only speak for myself. The sauna camp and boot camp we won't lose money, but we won't really make money on it either.
Right.
We haven't been able, for the wellness side of it, we haven't been able to figure out brands that sort of want to be, not that they don't want to be associated with it, but like the ROI on, like, if we're bringing builders together, how do brands look at wellness associated with their company? I think there's a great opportunity here, and
Mhm.
I wish more brands would see it. It's a little bit further down the road in
Right.
terms of like your return on your investment, because your mental health. And I think my pitch to these companies would be, if companies see you prioritizing their health,
Mhm.
their wellness, their well-being, they're going to associate that not only with the values of your company in a positive light,
Yep.
but also how you view and support them.
Right.
That bond, that loyalty is
Right.
going to be very strong.
Yep.
So I think there's a really good, it's just that they have a lot of times you and I speak to people that,
Mhm.
they might be their marketing directors, or it's like they have to go back up the company
Right.
to sort of prove. And the
And
question
then
will
they
be
don't
like,
understand. And
it becomes a little bit more difficult. How have you been able to navigate that?
So something that I actually just realized this last time, because it was the first time a couple, Anderson and Rockwell, actually came to see what it was about and to check it out. And honestly, just to come to monitor and to like feel it out. Like, what is this? What are these guys doing? What is this movement here? And because of their feedback, so it was instrumental that they came. I mean, it was just one person, but just to hear, because one thing that I learned is like these brands actually do spend a lot of money giving back to builders and the trades and the industry to better themselves. So it hit me like phrasing it a little bit differently, because what it looks like at Costa Rica is like, oh, we're out on these boats and partying and all that, which is not the case.
They look at it like it's a
whatsoever.
vacation.
Yes.
Right.
And so then all of a sudden I'm like, all of these brands, I was like, oh my gosh, they will give you a cutback, sometimes on what you spend to better yourself. So where you want to spend that. And it's almost like, I don't want to say a write off, but sometimes you'll invoice them back. I don't want to name these brands.
Yeah. No,
just in
you're fine.
case. But
That's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm like, oh my gosh, it just hit me. I was like, I have 4 brands that actually do that. One of the brands we spent, doing KBIS. And so then it hit me like, oh my gosh, but also to the builder, like, hey, talk to the brands that you guys work with to see if they give a cutback to, and a lot of it goes back to education, right? They'll say like to
Well,
better
and
yourself.
we had one where, well, I can say it because it's public, but like, so Builder Trend,
Mhm.
they're sponsoring one of our attendees because they have a relationship.
Yeah.
So one of the ways around it is like, would you, this builder would really like to come.
Yeah.
Will you help? It was a business development thing that they could
Yes.
see like, okay,
Yep.
that makes sense. This is a builder that we want to show.
Yeah.
It'd be no different than Ford F-150 giving
Yes.
somebody a truck
Yep.
and saying, hey, thank you for all that you do for us.
Right.
This is kind of a perk.
Yep.
And so I think there's different ways.
Yeah.
I think you've taught, just leading by example, just getting creative in how we do our pitches.
Right.
And,
Well, in the education
yeah.
aspect too. And
Mhm.
because I'm like, it is no different than them, giving back to their employees and making sure that they're doing things, right? Like taking mental health days, taking vacation days, like things like that. And the reason why they're anything is because of us, right?
Mhm.
Builders and trades and all of that. So it's like they want to make sure that we all are staying in check, that we're all taking care of ourselves. And so also when that conversation was happening, it just was like a light bulb went off. Oh, wow. Like this is different than saying, hey, do you want to sponsor this wellness retreat? It's like, no, do you want to help elevate these builders that pour XY, of revenue into your
Right.
brand to make sure that they stay in check? And it's starting to bring up those stats that we discussed and learned as an industry as a whole to these brands, because a lot of them don't know, like I didn't know, and to educate them on how we need to shift this industry to make it mentally stable. Like people don't want to get into this industry, and I'll call you out right before we're talking about, and we're like, what would we tell people getting in the industry? And it's like, and it's like every time I say that to my husband, he's like, run, quit. And I'm like, that's most builders. And I'm like, how sad. Like if we want to truly shift the industry, we have to be able to show up and like we do love it, right? But like it's hard. And I'm so tired of saying like it's hard. It's not for the faint of heart. Like you need to be so mentally strong, not physically, like yes, physically for what we do, but like this is a different mental game than any other industry out there. And it's like, this is so important. So
Mhm.
I think going to brands with that and having those conversations, really, they'll be like, it's yes.
I think it reminds me a little bit of when you do something the first time, people don't really get to see it. I think that's what's been so powerful about social media, video, podcasting, speaking about it. So that, because when people, if you can't understand something, you delete it, you check out on it.
Right. Yeah.
How do you make it so you can understand what it is? What's your messaging, your branding? Is it simple? I mean, this is true. If you're going to sell a house, if you are going to sell a car, whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
how simple can you make your branding?
Yeah.
And I think the first year, correct me if I'm wrong, but because you've mentioned to me, so now we have videography and photography of Sauna Camp.
Yep.
So I would anticipate next year is going to be a little bit easier for us to do it because we will.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is not everything has to kind of check out and make money.
Right.
Sometimes you believe in something so strongly that, I mean, it can't cost you a ton of money, hopefully, because it has to be sustainable or you have to get it from somewhere else.
Yep.
But if it's something you believe in strongly enough, you can find ways to do it.
Right.
And community to support it.
Yeah.
And if no one wants to be there and it's not making any money, then you probably shouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'm like, we're transparent about that. Build her first year, we didn't make money. We lost money.
Yeah.
But we, all three of us, like, know what we're doing. We believe in this. We know it's going to make money and we're in it for the long haul. So we're not, but yes, if we did it 5 years and we're still losing money, bye.
And I don't like the narrative where people are like, making money is not a bad thing, right? Like profit is not a dirty word. Right. And I mean, we should say this to our clients too, right? You want us to make money on your home. And I'll tell you why. Because 10 years, we have to warranty your homes in Minnesota for 10 years, a decade. Yeah. It's one of the longest in the country, to my knowledge. And so you want us here so we can service you. So we have, I mean, if someone is just fly in, fly out, like, do you trust that?
Right.
Like you want a reputable business.
Yeah.
You wouldn't drive a prototype car down the road with your family in it.
Right.
Like what happens if you get in a car accident? Is it going to fall apart?
Yeah.
I mean, that's dangerous.
Right.
And so I think you do. That's why you see, there's that adage, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. But you see companies that do very well and they continue to do very well. They have got a great legacy.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean you can't have an upstart company that has good branding. I mean, there's certainly places there for it. I'm just saying that people are looking and people are watching how you
Right.
operate
Yep.
and what you value.
Yeah.
And if there's a commonality between those values, I think doing this stuff, showing that you care about others,
Yeah.
maybe helps you in a different way. Maybe it's
Totally.
not, maybe this one thing doesn't make you money,
Yeah.
but the industry says, you know what? We like that what you're doing, leading change and helping
Yes.
other people beside, and
Yes.
you have, your resilience to reform is a way that you give
Mm-hmm.
back. You talked about that in episode 7,
Yep.
helping people that are incarcerated in prison.
Yep.
How do you get them back? And so we won't
Right.
talk a ton about that right now, but basically everyone seems to be passionate about other things outside of business. It could be their
Right.
family. It could be, the Joy Collaborative is coming up here May
Yeah.
29th. So we're helping support Mark and his mission to help kids with life limiting disabilities.
Right.
There's just so many places we can give back. And as
For sure.
builders, and remodelers and people in the industry, there's a lot of places we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just look around and ask. You'd be surprised at how many places
Yeah.
you could use some help.
Oh my gosh. For sure.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive. If you're still chasing checks and juggling spreadsheets, it's time to upgrade. Adaptive is revolutionizing how builders get paid with AI-powered bill pay, automated draws, one-click payments, and built-in lien waivers. Faster payments, fewer headaches, and total visibility. Adaptive takes care of the back-end chaos so you can focus on what you do best, building. We've used Adaptive for 2.5 years and trust them to keep our projects moving and payments flowing. Learn more at adaptive.build and simplify the pay process today. For more information, you can also listen to episode 10 and episode 15. Switching gears just a little bit to Contractor Coalition, coming up in Omaha. Looking back now, so it's been 3 years. Actually, right now is May of 3 years ago that we first met. Hey, this is
Okay.
probably
See, Contractor Coalition feels like 20.
I know, right? So what have you, let's talk a little bit of what's changed.
Okay.
We'll talk specifically about the ones coming up this year, but let's go, since we're talking about kind of the iteration of boot camp, sauna camp, build her, and how these are new things that are going to be here for a while, but we're in the infancy stages.
Mhm.
At this point, Contractor Coalition it's a 3-year-old.
Yeah. Oh.
It can walk and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's in dog years, so it's a lot older. The first time that you guys did it, Brad, Nick,
Oh
and
my
you,
gosh.
what was that like now looking back in hindsight? Because now brands that want to be a part of it are like, our mutual friend, Mike from Emsers, there'll never be a Contractor Coalition
Yeah.
without me being a
Yeah.
part of it because it's that powerful.
Yeah.
But the first time when you
Mhm.
had your first Contractor Coalition, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
What was it like pitching brands? Because people know what it is now. Everyone wants to be a part of it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I'm like, well, I'm trying to think of like the timing too, because so Jamie and I were on Brad Levitt's podcast, and I want to say it was like in the spring. Like we put that together like within 6 months, like the conference. Yeah, because it was in the spring we were on his podcast, and then by the fall we had our first one in Nashville. So
Oh,
we
it was a
just
fall one? I thought it was spring. I thought it was in May. Well, it doesn't matter,
yeah.
but maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know, wasn't it in
It was.
the
Well,
in the spring?
I thought so, but maybe I'm
Well,
wrong.
I don't know.
I just know
Doesn't
because
matter.
I looked the other day. I have a picture of my daughter because I brought her down there with my
Yeah.
sister-in-law, and
Yep.
because she's obsessed with Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
So we did. I brought
yes.
May down there, which was kind of
Yes.
this fun
Yeah.
whole thing in Nashville.
Yeah. Regardless, the timing, it
Yeah.
was under a year. And I
Yeah.
just remember thinking, oh my gosh, we are putting a wedding together in under a year. And we had to pull it off. Like we had to, and I remember because Brad's like, I was doing this other event. He came in for that. And then he was like, we need to be doing this for contractors. And we said this on the podcast. And then we chatted
And then Shirley-
offline
and then
and we're like, let's do it. And he's a yes person. I'm a yes person. And then he's like, let's bring in Nick from NS Builders. And I was like, perfect. And then I remember talking to them the first time too and being like, I was thinking, oh, we'll charge $200 a ticket. And then those guys were like, we're going to charge 10 grand a ticket. And I was like, you guys are out of your mind. We're going to pull off a wedding, plus charge that, plus get brand sponsors. And they, of course, were confident. So that's a perfect example. Like for male versus female, there is no way. And they were so confident. Like they had no hesitation, no doubt. And I was like, whoa, like it took me probably a few weeks. Still, sometimes I'm like, wait, what? And they had that thing sold out in no time. And so I was like, wow, like again, knowing your worth, showing up, saying it, right? No, this is because they were like, think about our combined knowledge, how much money we've paid. We're going to share all this. We're going to open it up, be transparent, open up our books, like everything.
What's interesting about that, going back to the very beginning, now we talk about our collaboration over competition. I
Yeah.
mean, so many people, and maybe it's just our world, everybody says that, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about that a little bit before, but at that time it was kind of radical,
Yeah, I
meaning
would say I just haven't
not
lived my life that way, but I would definitely say with like Brad and Nick,
well,
and
Brad and Nick, and Brad is
yes.
like up there saying like, "Hey, I've got 4 builders in Phoenix. I'm
Yeah.
sharing my sworn construction statement. I'm
Yes, his
showing
top
my
competitors were
contracts.
there.
They're like
Yes,
everything."
all of it. Yes,
And
every single thing.
I think really owning that message and leading by example,
Right.
that one event, but between the 3 of you, it wasn't
Yeah.
just Brad, it was Nick too, and
Yes.
yourself,
Yep.
and really now the community that keeps on growing and fostering this open, authentic thing.
Yes.
Like we have our locally and
Yep.
now in a few other states, the Curious Collective.
Yep.
And I had someone come up to me the other day and they said, "We haven't ever been around someone that is as open as you. And we
Mhm.
found so much value in the collectives because you just lead with everything."
Yeah.
And I don't even know, I'm just, thank you.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
And
You're like, "I don't even know what to say."
yeah, because, and you realize that there's work for everybody,
For
but
sure. Oh my
we're just
gosh.
trying to find people that you can connect with.
Yeah.
Again, going back to how intimate a home is,
Yeah.
we want the best builders, the best remodelers, the best designers, the best architects with the right client. Not
Yeah.
every client is right for every person.
No.
And I feel like so much of my job lately has been matchmaker. I've got 3
Yes.
design contracts right now where we're interviewing 2 architects, 2
Yep.
designers, and it's
Mhm.
really, as I get to know the client, like really figuring out who do I think that they'd be, that it might, I want to
Yes.
make sure that if I'm a cruise boat captain,
Yeah.
I want to get across the ocean where everyone likes each other,
Yes.
everyone has a good
Yeah.
time, we land there
When
safe.
we're
We don't
all
want the
gonna
Titanic.
yeah.
No one wants the
Yes.
Titanic.
And we're all gonna live better, right? Like
Yeah.
our day to day. And it's
Yeah.
like, again, if we're all doing that for one another, I'm like, we do it with some of our competitors too at the same level as us of like, you know what? I mean, I do it with, I could say J Cath,
Mhm.
there's been often times where they look at something and they're like, it would be their job, but they're like, you know what? I think this would be better fit for you. And
Right.
they send it on over and vice versa. We had a client right now that we had done their bathroom for a few years ago. Now they're doing their kitchen, and it's like, and that's okay. Like
Right.
I'm like, I would much rather, like, we're working with the right
The right.
people.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's the whole summit is just like being that way. And I'm so glad they did say that price point because then very quickly I realized, like, oh my gosh, this event is costing us 150 grand. Like, we need to pay for the event. So had we not charged what we did, like, we would have been hurting. And
Right.
so then, yeah, to
So
get, yeah,
ear early on, I remember I called you. I've said this a number of times in the podcast, but I remember calling you because I didn't know you at that
oh
time.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
I
I
was,
was like
and it was
nervous.
10,000.
I'm like, the top builder of the year.
Oh,
Oh my
please.
God. I was like, oh my God, how do I sell him? I'm no Mark.
You closed it down hard. You're closing. Do you remember what you said?
Yes, I said you'll get your money back within the first session.
Hour.
Yeah,
First hour.
first hour. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dang,
Brad
that
told me
is.
to say that though.
Oh, really? Did you
Yeah.
really?
Because he's like, you will. And he
That,
was so confident. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can
see,
do
but that goes
this.
back to your earlier comment about this is why a team is so good and why have men and women together work so well. Is that messaging, but you delivered it. But Brad giving you the compass. No, this
Yes.
is, and even like that price point you just shared is super cool.
Yep.
But that was right. I remember because my wife was like, "Hey, you should check out this Contractor Coalition.
Mhm.
I feel like you're at a point in your inflection point in your career where you could grow and do some
Yeah.
different things, and I think this would help get you there."
Yeah.
Of course, my wife was right,
And now she's regretting it.
yeah, yeah, probably. And I love you, honey. And so she, the
Same
whole
with all the other ideas
the whole
that you're
Contractor
spinning out
Coalition
from it.
loves you too.
We
I would
do.
love to bring her sometime. That would be a real trip.
I know.
If that could
Yes.
actually happen. May's come on. I'll bring the boys next time.
She's like, no, that is not my best yes.
But I called you and you said, yeah, you'll.
Mhm.
I said, this is a lot of money. I don't learn by sitting and just listening to
Yeah.
someone speak.
Right.
And you're like, you won't. It's a small setting.
Yeah.
And there's lots of interactions. You can ask lots of questions,
Yeah.
which is hilarious because
Because you did.
yeah, well, I'm like known for that. And when I brought other people, I'm like, oh yeah, like Penske's were on and like
Yeah.
tanker sleeves. I'm like, who's that guy asking questions in the front row all the
But
time?
that was great. That definitely made everyone feel more at ease and be like, okay, this is informal.
Yep.
That's the whole point of why we wanted only 30 people in the room, is so that everyone can leave implementing,
Because so many big conferences seem like there's value to them. I'm not saying
Right.
that the big conference isn't valuable.
Mhm.
I mean, like we had CBUSA's conference here, last
Yeah.
September, and it was great. Lots
Yep.
of builders, and the breakouts make so much sense. Having those
Yes.
small breakouts is
Yep.
really wise. But what I think the genius of the Contractor Coalition is the small intimate groups.
Mhm.
The you're drinking through a fire hose. I mean, the amount of information is. I mean, it
Yeah.
took me about 2 to 3 coalitions before I'm like, okay, now I think I could probably teach some of this stuff because I've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
But like, it obviously changes as the times
Yep.
change. But the first time you're just like, wow, this is a lot of
Mhm.
water coming at me. The
Yeah.
second time you're like, okay, now it's like anything. You need a little practice.
Yes. Well, and anyone, like you have been in the building industry for a long time. We've had many other builders, like second, third generation, long time, and they have all learned something. We have new builders, new remodelers. And so I think that's another thing is a lot of people have the thought or perspective like, oh, I know that, or they're going to teach things I already know. And it's like, no, like that is
I
not.
think it's the refinement of
Yeah.
ideas you have. I think and I don't have my MBA, but I think there's the path where you get an undergrad and then you go get your MBA.
Yep.
Then there's people that get their undergrad, go
Yeah.
work for a decade, and then go get their MBA.
Yeah.
That MBA is still a certificate. You got your
Right.
MBA.
Yeah.
But the knowledge that second person has is
Right.
way greater than the
Yeah.
first person
So
because
true.
you could apply it. I think having, let's say for me, being now I'm 21, but at
Yeah.
the time I'd been in business for 18 or 19 years, whatever it
Yeah.
was. And all these examples, all these times I've failed so many times.
Mhm.
And to see like, oh, that was the answer.
Right.
And oh man, this would have avoided that. And I think you can apply it so much
Yeah,
quicker.
for sure.
Of course, you can't rewrite your life without a time machine.
Mhm.
But I look at some of the younger builders that were there that are like years 2 and years 3. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
what I wouldn't have killed to
So
have
Jamie says all
have
to
this
anyone.
type of
Yeah.
leg up and ladder.
Yeah.
And I think of Kevin Arnold from KA
Mhm.
Design. So
Yeah.
he and I
Oh my
become
gosh, he's
friends.
gonna
And like,
kill it.
yeah,
Like,
him and Abby. I mean, they're like, every time I see him, I'm like,
oh,
I don't even know how they look like they're 25.
I
They
think they
look,
might be.
they're so young. And I'm like, that's amazing. And they're so, I'm like, or like Ben Garvin, who's
Oh,
a part of
yeah.
our collective, and he's
Yeah.
coming to Omaha,
Yeah.
his second one. In
Yep,
fact,
love that.
yeah. So anyway, I love that people are prioritizing their
Mhm.
education and saying that. And I think that's the value of the amount. Like the amount of money, I mean, at this point now I've spent well over 6 figures
Mhm.
on my quote education over the last 3,
Yeah.
4 years, and
Mhm.
Brad and Nick and yourself
Yeah.
all included,
Yep.
including time and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. I think having something that costs, having some skin in the game is helpful
Mhm.
because it shows that there's something worthwhile there.
For sure.
And I think people that you might have to take a few stepping stones to get them there. Because I'm
Yep.
not saying that it's not a significant investment,
Right.
but it's like saying if you could put $10,000, in Bitcoin 10 years ago compared to what
Yeah.
it is. I mean, it's that kind of
Right.
leverage.
Well, if you're starting a business, 10 grand and you will get everything you need to start your company
I mean,
with, like, and you're going to be ready to launch and do
I
it very
mean,
successfully
I
with a
can't
great group of people.
I can't think of a single thing
Mhm.
that would be a force multiplier to a greater degree.
Yeah.
And it's not even sales. I've lived it.
Yeah.
I've gone to 4 of them
Right.
out of 6. And it's like, so it's like, at
Well,
this
and the
point you
people.
might need a restraining order on
Yeah.
them.
No.
And so I think I just, anyway, this wasn't meant to be what it's becoming, which is a
Mhm.
pitch for it, but it's just speaking honestly about
Oh my
like what
gosh.
it's become and how you've grown it.
Yeah. Well, and the
And
people. So going back to your like from then to now, I'm like, I think that's the biggest thing is like the group of people that I've met from putting this on that have shown up that are now in my life that I consider like yourself, like truly you are one of my top 3 people, right? That's like on speed dial for like personal, professional, like hard things. And so it's like that. And then these other groups, that have come all from the summit. I'm like, I I am a different person from 3 years ago just by now having new people in my life, and we were just kinda talking about that before the podcast, but I'm like I was talking to someone before I walked in the office, and they were bringing up some scarcity mindset things, and I was just like I had to pause because 'cause I'm like, "Wow, it's been forever." It's been a long time since and not forever, not that long ago, actually, but I'm just like, "Wow, I haven't been around this," and I'm like, "Is it because I'm so surrounded now by this, like, rock star, group of people that are my besties that I'm
I
like, they only keep me moving forward
I
and thinking outside the box and always staying positive." So I'm just like, oh, that's such a bummer that you're living in that space. I'm like, oh, like,
Well, no,
come over.
I think you're right. I think when people I think when people think you have to keep everything a secret, and there's for the collectives, I've invited once I've invited certain people into the collectives,
Yeah.
and we have a builder collective, a design collective, and an architect collective here
Yep.
locally in Minnesota, and they've been great. Love it.
Yeah.
There are a few of, let's say, the top performers, that kind of the apex predators
Mhm.
that feel, I don't know if they feel threatened. I don't know if they feel like they have the secret sauce. It's hard to understand that mentality because it's
Mhm.
just not
Yeah.
one that I really relate to.
Yeah.
And so I like, more out of curiosity, I
Yeah.
like to ask them questions. So there's
Yeah.
one person I'm thinking of right now that I won't name. And I just was asking them, like, well, what is it? And they're like, well, we've spent decades developing, what our thing is. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I mean, if it's truly, if yeah, is it patented? Is it like some
Right.
crazy thing that no one else has? Like you have the
It's
formula to
definitely not.
Coca-Cola. Like there's only four
Yeah.
people in the world that know this thing. Then like,
Yeah.
sure, okay, Coca-Cola.
Mhm.
You should probably not just hand that out. I get
Yeah.
it. But if we're talking about customer relations, we're talking about how to interact with clients. Like what, you can always learn more.
Yeah.
And what I've been really humbled by is people like a Don Forsman, who is a builder remodeler here in Minnesota. I mean, he's a legend in the community. He sold this company.
Yeah.
He still comes.
Yeah.
So the
Super
answer, well,
cool.
like, why?
Yeah.
I want to give back. I
Oh,
want to be
cool.
there to
Yeah.
help other builders. Like now that you're talking about, you're talking about Michael Jordan coming back to
Yes.
play basketball with,
Yeah.
high schoolers
Yep.
in this
That
analogy.
is really
And
cool
he
also.
just wants to be like, you know what? This is amazing. I wish this existed when I was younger.
Yes.
And if I can give back and be a part of this, and I don't know what other aspirations he may have
Yeah.
after he's on the tail end of his buyout of his company, but like, who doesn't respect Don?
Right.
And
That is super
and
cool.
I just, there's other people like that.
Mhm.
And sometimes people will surprise you
Mhm.
and you're like, wow, that's so cool that they want to. And there is, I'm sure they're learning something too, but I
Yeah.
just love that these types of community events and education things, like your tribe attracts, your vibe attracts your tribe, as you always
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting tighter and tighter. And so it becomes surprising to you and I when we are around people
Right.
that don't think that
Yeah.
way. And it's almost like it's like you're looking under a rock, like, well, how does this rock work? Like, what's
Yes.
going on here? Let's
Yeah.
dig into this. Why don't you think
I
this way?
know. Well, and I said to you, I was like, honestly, it kind of made me like sick in my stomach a little bit because I don't know if it was like I was sad for them or if I was just like, man, this is where our industry's at. Like I thought we had evolved a little bit more of living in this space. And so, yeah, I'm grateful that we're putting on the Contractor Coalition because I'm like,
Just to share.
I cannot even imagine where my life would be right now. I don't even know if I'd still be in the industry, honestly.
I've said that before too, that I feel like for me specifically, it's not just the podcast, but now the Curious Builder brand. I have 6 or 7
Yeah.
like platforms off of it, but
Yeah.
it started with the podcast. I was burned out
Yeah.
after 18 years of
Yeah.
building. Like I had a couple difficult clients and I was fried.
Mm-hmm.
This is reinvigorated. I'm more excited about building now.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
ready to go. I got RoboCop enhancements. I'm ready to go
Yes.
back to
Yeah.
battle and I'm excited again.
Yeah.
But it's the community aspect.
Right.
It's like you've been refreshed. It's
Yeah.
a timeout.
When we all cheer each other on,
Mhm.
no matter what we're doing. Or actually, a recent example too is I was talking to Allie from Integral and we were chatting about, it was something build her related, but something came up and someone was doing something similar. And I just made a comment. I was joking, a little bit, but I was like, we'll do better than that. And immediately she was like, no, Morgan, we will go over there and we will root them on. We will make sure that they're successful and that they're doing just as good as that we're doing. And I was like, oh my God, like, thank you for also like, again, I'm around people that keep you in check, that make sure that you are staying like cheering everyone on, and that there is no someone's better than the other. Like we're on, yeah, and the name, they had to build her name, but something different because I was looking for a URL. And I was like,
sure.
oh, who is this? And I was like joking, but also I was like, oh, okay, I'm
We
going to
got
get,
this,
yeah, I
yeah.
was like, we got this. And she's like, no, we all got this together. And I was like, thank you. And I literally said that to her.
I think
like,
there's
thank
the
you.
nuance, right? Like in any team sport, you can have competition within the same team.
Yeah.
But the team
Friendly.
camaraderie is still there.
Yes.
Only just because was a couple years ago since the Bulls documentary came out, right? There's
Yeah.
no question that like Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan and everyone
Yeah.
else on that roster, like there's this famous story of Steve Kerr
Yeah.
where Michael Jordan punched him, he punched him back, but he
Yep.
respected him for it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying in this
Yes.
analogy we should punch each other, but
Yeah.
like the point is like their team. But
Yeah.
that camaraderie of being a little feisty,
Right.
you are
Helping each other level up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Michael's point of view in that was simply he wanted to know he could go into battle and trust those people.
Mhm.
And by showing you had a little spunk and a little fire versus
Yeah.
just laying down,
Right.
sometimes people push you to see if you push back. I mean,
Yeah,
that goes back to the
for
client
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
I've had clients where I had a client one time that tried to push back on price. And I said, no, this is what it is. There's another builder we were competing against that went way lower.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah.
And somehow it came out later, but he said the main reason why was like that other builder dropped so much, like it made me feel uneasy. Like,
right. Like
wait a minute,
how,
like what
why?
changed?
Yeah.
Were you being dishonest? Was that because like there's nothing,
Yeah.
it's the same product. So
Right.
how could that happen? Like
Yep.
something's up.
Yep.
And sometimes a lot of our clients are savvy.
Mhm.
Sometimes they test us on purpose. Sometimes they're just
Mm.
using instincts, but I've heard it said before, if you don't ask for it, you won't get it.
Yeah.
So the hard part about trying to be in the client pleasing business is,
Yeah.
they ask us, we often negotiate against ourselves in our
Yeah,
mind.
for
I had a
sure.
client one time who asked recently, would I match this other builder's, price?
Yeah.
And it was a open book. It was a margin.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't. I mean, we're delivering. You want what we deliver.
Yeah.
You want to work with us.
Yeah.
But you want me to do it at his price.
Yeah.
But they're not delivering the same thing I'm delivering.
Right.
So that's not a fair thing to ask.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. And he goes, you're right.
That's amazing.
And so we found common ground.
Yeah.
And they went with us. Because at the end of the day, he wanted to work with us.
Right.
He just felt, and sometimes people feel like they need to negotiate to feel good about something.
Right. And they don't understand how the pricing works, because not all pricing is as transparent.
Well, it's just it's
Right.
a narrative. It's explaining.
Yep,
It's
for
trying
sure.
to get into, I think the best jobs and even the smartest people are ones that they ask for you to maybe do something for them, or
Mhm.
they ask for a level of service.
Yeah.
But I think if the first thing you come into and say, you go to the bottom and you say, I would like you to lower your price.
Yeah.
You've sort of set this odd relationship dynamic
Yeah.
that you're going to be in a combative state
Mhm.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And the best builds I've ever had where they're happy, we're happy, everyone, the best builds,
Yeah.
best experience for everybody is when that doesn't happen.
Right.
And it takes a well-rounded and just a very good client.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
it's not that all builders should just get whatever they want. I'm not
No.
saying that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that you should be paid for what you're worth. And if you're
Right.
delivering something that is really valuable,
Mhm.
you should be paid for that.
Right.
And I think that's where branding, storytelling, like
Mhm.
if we can't explain to them what we're doing, or if
Yeah.
they can't, better yet, if they can't see what we're doing,
Yeah.
then it makes price the only thing it's just black
Right.
and white. They just see a price.
Right.
And, I think when you buy, let's say, luxury items or
Mhm.
high-end, price is important, but
Yep.
that's not why you're buying the thing.
Right.
I don't think people buy, if people are going to buy a Ferrari or a Rolex watch or some
Right.
high-end goods or go first class to
Yeah.
fly to Europe, but like, you're going after it for the experience.
Yeah.
The price is already the price.
Right.
We'd be better off as an industry to talk about what we're doing and the hospitality that we're bringing
Mhm.
and the experience that you'll have during it.
Yes.
And they can decide whether they want that or not.
Right.
I'm not saying it's for everyone.
Yep.
I've never flown first class.
Yeah.
I would love to. That's not.
What? You've never got upgraded for free?
I have not. I don't fly as much as other people.
Oh man. You travel a lot though.
Eh,
I just got an email today that I got to upgrade on Sunday to first class for free. I was like, dang,
Really?
Thanks. Thanks, Delta.
Wow. All right. Well, I'll have to work on my game.
Yeah, what the heck?
Well,
I didn't even request it either.
Well, hey, shocker. We used up an hour pretty quick.
Oh.
Let's go with maybe one thing you're excited for the remainder of the year. Is there anything?
Oh my gosh.
I
I
know.
feel like the year just started, but also it's 2027.
Almost May.
I
You know what's really crazy?
What?
That's only a month and a half away from half.
I know. I actually thought the other day I was like looking at Q2 goals and things, and I was like, what? Q2 is over. I'm like, I need to hit these now.
Right.
Oh gosh. What I don't know.
Are you more of a week? Are you looking at the day, the week, the month? Like,
I look at quarters pretty
Yeah.
heavily, and then I look at months, and then I have different things that I want to hit
Mhm.
every month. But yeah, I don't know. I'm in a like weird spot, I guess, where I'm like really excited about things, but then also I think I also have this balance where I like work with my husband, and if he's some way that feels on me,
Yeah.
like he's really burnt out right now and tired of the same hamster wheel. And so I have a little bit of that going on, but I'm excited like for Contractor Coalition coming up. Like I always say, the gang's back together again.
Right.
I'm excited for the summer and just to spend time with my kids and not
Yep.
have this like get out the door,
Yep.
and get them from pickup.
Yeah.
It'll just be nice to chill. And of
Yep.
course,
Pool
the
party.
fall
I saw
and-
the video you posted where they're all jumping in the pool.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
you, where it was pretty cold.
Yeah, it was 30 degrees, and I was like,
The water was 30 degrees.
I we started a new tradition.
Well, how
Topher,
could the water be
actually.
30 degrees? It'd be frozen.
It was, well, the icebergs, once they turn the jets on,
Oh,
so there was,
so it literally was 30.
yeah, so we're going to always jump in it when it's pool opening day.
Whew.
Yeah. But then don't worry, I got it up to like 90 within 48 hours.
That's funny.
But yeah, so I'm excited. We're working on a lot of different things. We're
Yeah.
working on ramping up our YouTube channel
Yeah.
and just getting different content, like you said,
Yeah.
out on the educational side. And we have some great clients right now that are making our lives really easy. So that's always
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, a few projects upcoming that I'm excited for, that like understand the design assignment, want to put in some, local products that I'm pumped to
Yeah.
do. But yeah,
That's great.
I know.
I love it.
How about you? What are you excited for?
I was thinking about that when I asked the question. I was thinking I did an episode in January right after New Year. I kind of became obsessed with this Japanese principle called misogi or misagi.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like two things.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try to. So my one thing for the business is misahus, which is
Yeah.
this first spec home
Mhm.
that we've been doing. And so it's just like basically every Thursday I have 3 hours blocked off only to do misahus.
Okay.
And so it's like, it's architect meetings, it's design meetings. We had
Mhm.
one right when you came in because
Yeah.
today's Thursday, we're recording. And so it's just like every single week I'm doing something to push that ball
I
up the
love
hill.
that.
And so I'm
Yeah.
very focused. My branding, the website, the messaging. I mean, really my 14-month calendar from right
Yeah.
now is all centered around that one home.
That's amazing.
And so that's been really,
I'm excited.
it's kind of nice.
for
It's
that.
the simplicity of it. Like I know this one thing. Now I have my
Yeah.
other clients, obviously I have to pay attention to too, but like, it's just I know that if I focus really strongly on that,
Mhm.
that everything else in my goals and my 3-year, 5-year, 10-year
Right.
plan are all sort of linked into
Yeah.
this kind of nucleus.
Yeah.
And then personally, I picked one for the business and one for personal. The other
Mhm.
one is, training for this race I'm doing in August. So it's
Yeah.
like, just being really diligent on training. And I've got like 5 races that lead up to it. So it's really, that's the personal and that's
Mhm.
and just really 2. Those are it.
That's amazing.
And trying to keep some simplicity, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm doing a great job of it, but
That's hard.
yeah, it is
Like
hard.
training for that, I don't know how people
Well, just
do
early
that. I'm like,
mornings. That's that brings the most clarity. You're
Okay.
up
Yeah.
early. You do your
Yeah.
meditation and
Yeah.
writing and
Journaling,
all that
CrossFit,
stuff.
yeah.
For me, it's
That's true.
exercise and
It's just
community,
different.
because you can talk. And like this morning was biking. So,
Yeah.
there's 4 guys and we're just talking
Yeah.
about whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. It's more like dogs at a dog park going
Yeah.
for a run. You just
Yeah.
happen to be chasing a ball in the same direction.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we'll have everything in the
So
show
fun.
notes. Thanks again for tuning into the Curious Builder podcast. We are on Mondays for our interviews with builders, architects, and designers across the country, and Thursdays for Q&A. Thanks again for tuning in. We've had the podcast for 2.5, almost 3 years now, and we have a consulting page, one-to-one consulting. You can book my time for 1 hour. Perhaps you've heard a guest where you like one of the topics. Maybe you want an introduction to some of the guests that I've had on. Perhaps you want to talk about branding or marketing or anything that we've covered on the podcast over the last 2.5 years. You can book a time at curiousbuilderpodcast.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Curious Builder podcast. If you like this episode, do us a favor, share it with 3 other business owners. The best way that we can spread what we're doing is by word of mouth, and with your help, we can continue to help other curious builders expand their business. Please share it with your friends, like and review online, and thanks again for tuning in.